Hi everybody, as you've probably noticed, I've changed my channel name to Debda Vibes because it's easier for people to pronounce and to share the channel or write it down. Deborah Mahmoodieh, a lot of people have difficulties even pronouncing Mahmoodieh. So my Facebook's still Deborah Mahmoodieh, my Twitter's still Deborah Mahmoodieh, so you know, it's Debda Vibes now, and so hopefully that reassures my subscribers that my channel hasn't been hacked and taken over by some unknown entity, as it were. So anyway, today, I'm hoping that this video isn't going to be too long, but you know, what we're facing today, you know, it is absorbing our time, it's absorbing my time, and a lot of people, because we are so concerned, and I think we need to make the time and spare the time to absorb the information in order to get a fuller understanding, picture of what is actually happening, because confusion makes everybody vulnerable, and that's why I have my channel, that's why I write, that's why I make my videos, that's why I share knowledge, because knowledge is power, and we need the power to go directly to the people, because the powers controlling our world are very imbalanced psychologically, consciously, on every level, and therefore we are in danger. Our planet's in danger, our species is in danger, and the life of our planet, all the species are in danger. And we do need a change, and that change is coming, and it is going to come through us, we the people, and that will happen when people are adequately informed and the boat isn't rocking wildly from one side to the other, when we're stable and we have both feet, we get both feet on the ground, okay, and we start to understand where we are, who we are, what we're doing, what we need, and how to progress, how to achieve progress. And that really is standing firmly on the side of rights and the law, okay, and I'm talking about the common law that comes directly from God, or you know, the divine creator, whichever people want to call that. I understand it as universal golden light intelligence that wrote our DNA, quantum energy that wrote our DNA, because we didn't write our own DNA. We didn't, Bill Gates didn't come along with a computer to write our DNA. This universe wrote our DNA, okay, and I think the laws that we carry innately with us, you see, and as a species we need to learn to understand that we give power to those who are most innately connected to their humanity, to that divine spark and the laws, because this universe operates on law, physical law and also spiritual law, because we are we are a quantum energy intelligence inside a physical body, and therefore we are subject to laws of how we behave in that physical body, because we can upset the balance of the universe, you see, because we are the intelligence of the universe. And a child universe needs to understand, like, look, if you don't want your universe to completely be obliterated and enjoy time after time after time in that universe as a living consciousness, then, you know, you need to follow the law, because otherwise it's at risk, you see. And I understand that from my personal experiences, which probably, you know, I know a lot of people in this world, it's like, they hear that, they hear me talking about universal light being, it's like, oh, turn it off, you know, listening to all that nonsense. But go and look at yourself in the mirror, you know what I mean, because we are all a product of that, whether we like it or not. The fact it's been, this kind of knowledge has been taken and turned into various religious beliefs and practices and what have you. You know, we are about to grow up. You know, all of the religion is really like a baby walker. It's time to grow up and to understand that what God was telling us. That does not mean we have to stop becoming a Jew or stop becoming a Christian or stop becoming a Muslim. People living righteous, decent lives, you know, caring for the children, being nice to their neighbours. Look, carry on, you know. As the generations grow, people start to realise, yes, what we end up is a more purer interpretation of Islam, a more purer interpretation of Christianity, a more purer interpretation of Judaism and Hindu and you name it. It all becomes more refined and more purified, and we have our own culture. We are entitled to our separate cultures. We are a diverse species like a rainbow, and there are no sharp divides between the colours of a rainbow. Learn to read the covenant. And we have faith in that. We have faith that when we live lawfully, everything will fall into place. Everything will be right, because that is how the universe is written. And when we follow the law, and we uphold the law, and we defend the law is the rod, okay? The law is like an iron rod. And with words and intelligence and understanding and balance and compassion, from that rod, we create a very fine sword. The sword and the scales. And the sword falls where the scales are out of balance. Because the law has been broken. Because the law upholds balance. You see, that is the law. And the sword falls when the balance of the scales is tilted. And we right now are living in a world, the balance of the scales of justice, of what is right, the balance of the scales of the law have been tilted. And we understand that, look, the law is a compassionate, beneficent ideology. It's a facet of human intelligence. You know, something that isn't measured in the IQ test, for example. Compassion isn't measured in the IQ test. Empathy, not measured in the IQ test. These are all part of human intelligence. But apparently when the powers that be, who, let's face it, have been for hundreds of years by now, this ruling consciousness and all its defunct ideologies, that are mostly, whichever way you look at it, are all about enslaving masses of males, having women with no rights, you know, basically sex slaves, and then also easy access to children. That's basically what they're about. And, you know, living big, getting people to build them big houses, and they want this and they want that, and everything that comes into their imagination, we're going to build, we're going to create it, we're going to paint it, we're going to dig it up out the ground, we're going to, you know, get into the mines and dig for it, and they're going to take the profits of it all, because it's all for them, because they're God, because they know best, and if we don't do what they say, they're going to kill us, because they don't live by the law. And as time goes on and people rise up again and again and again and again, and then slowly they have to bend down, like Rome had to bend down to Jesus and usurp, to the point where they realised the only choice they had now was to usurp Jesus and claim that they were following Jesus. And next minute there they were telling people, oh, you know, commit as many sins as you like, as long as you give the church a sum of gold according to the sin that you've done. You know, a really bad sin would be what? You know, £10 worth of gold because you've murdered somebody, but don't worry, that's 10 quid. You go and give 10 quid to the Pope, bang, you're forgiven, off you go. Is that the law? But people accepted it. People accepted it. They went along with it. It seems absolutely ridiculous today if we were to introduce such a thing in this society, but when we look at what's going on on this planet on a grand scale, we see that is exactly what's going on. If you've got a lot of money, you can do what you like. You know, you can be Bill Gates and go and injure hundreds of thousands of children around the world and still walk around being praised like some kind of god. And next minute you're on the BBC telling the British public, for example, among other publics in this world, that, oh yes, you know, you all need to be vaccinated with an experimental gene editing vaccine. That's our DNA that was written by this universe. This consciousness now seeks to inject us all. You know, medical rape is the only term that you can describe it. So after that preamble, which basically informs you where I'm coming from, okay, that is where I'm coming from, not here for praise and what have you, not here for money. My channel is completely non-monetized, no advertising, nothing, okay. I'm here for you to share the information, and yes, I'm working in the field of alternative news media, and I am, my role is, as I am, the average common British citizen who happens to be a person that's survived child abuse, who lives with complex PTSD, who has had profound, what some might call supernatural experiences. So my scope of consciousness is quite broad, but my understanding is fine-tuned to the point of, like I say, that ray of golden light that shines through the eye of a needle. And we all need to start moving towards that kind of level of consciousness, that once you understand the big picture, once you understand really what's going on, that's when you can really cut right through everything and be, you know, the sunbeam we were all created to be. You know, we should all be living in joy. And hopefully, as terrible as the information is, I am bringing information also of the higher consciousness and the positive changes that we are going to bring into being now as a people, because we are going to stand up for our rights. And what I'm going to share you here is some information that offers insights and perspective in order to bring you into the consciousness that yes, it is really bad. We face the horror of it, but we aren't crushed by the horror of it. That from that we stand up. We realise, no, we're going to stand up, and we are going to say no to this. And if they're going to have their way, it is going to be directly against us, and they will live with the horror of their own creations. You see, should they win, they've lost, because we have to accept that the ruling consciousness is crazy. You see, that's what we need to understand. Then they're crazy because they don't understand what they're doing, really. They do understand the misery and the laws they're deliberately breaking, yes. But they don't realise that actually they are destroying themselves, you see. Because if they did realise that, they wouldn't do it. But that's the way of the world that has been exploiting that mindset, the psychopathic mindset. Psychopaths are useful for mad, crazy people. Not every mad, crazy person is a psychopath, and not every psychopath is a mad, crazy person. You see, that's how, you know, we need to start seeing through the divides that stop us from, you know, realising, oh no, the colours of the rainbow actually merge at the edges, but each colour still holds its own. That's natural, that's the law, that's when you understand the full picture. There is no black line between the red and the pink and the yellow and the green and the blue. Okay. So how can we start to understand, to appreciate the subtleties of what is going on. So here we have UK Column. Now I support UK Column, I'm a subscriber, and they do share some excellent news, and I've promoted their news and advised people to watch them, and I still advise people to watch UK Column because they are sharing very important information. But I ask people to be discerning. Understand that not the vast majority of what's out there in this world is to some degree controlled if they have achieved any degree, any level of social standing and respect. The vast majority of them. I'm not saying all. There are always the anomalies, okay, that do it off their own bat. Like, for example, Last American Vagabond. People like Whitney Webb. There's higher consciousness. You know, there are lots of people out there that are just sharing it like it is from their own perspective. They're not pushing any particular agenda. They aren't controlled. Like David Yates, for example, and there's H. Thomas Ackerman. There's another friend, Hank McGurk. You know, that I support. I really appreciate them, and I listen to their videos. Some of them have got very, very small followings. There's another lady that I've just discovered as well. I'll leave her link under this as well. That, you know, just small little channels, us people just talking together, and also people that are coming from our circles who are very skilled, you know, like Last American Vagabond and Whitney Webb and people like that. Much, you know, James Corbett, much more skilled than I am. Even with them, you know, I'm a bit like, well, I would like them to cover certain other things than they do. But that's what I'm saying. There's constraints everywhere. Now, also, I think I could give them the benefit of the doubt. I must say, I find it very difficult to give UK Column the benefit of doubt here. And I'm hoping that UK Column may, on the strength of this video, have a bit of a rethink about what is really going on. You know, maybe they just aren't aware as well. I don't know. But I am deeply disturbed by what they've presented here today, because this morning they've started with Breitbart News. Now, one of the biggest problems that I feel we're facing right now is the divisions that are being imposed upon us, because we know it's divide and rule. And there's this narrative that's been put forward now and is becoming very popularised, that anybody who's questioning COVID are all Breitbart Trump supporters, far-right fascist type individuals. And all the people that are following the COVID rules, they're all moderate, centrist leftists, you see, generally, you know. And that somehow, you know, poor Trump and Boris have been under attack for saying let it run through the herd, when that's precisely what had already happened, okay, whether we like it or not. The fact is, no matter what the media is saying, the governments are saying, the fact is this had already run through the herd before it was even identified as a threat, okay? The herd was already infected with COVID-19. So, you know, what we witnessed was a psyop, that the liars tell the truth and then the media can push the lie and appear to be operating on side of the public. holding authority to account. No, telling authority, no, we've got to have lockdowns. No, we've got to have masks. Oh, look, we need a public inquiry because, you know, Boris Johnson has killed people by not having a lockdown soon enough. When actually, when you look at the actual facts and figures, as UK Column News, and hats off to them for it, have rightly shown people that lockdown has killed people. So what we witness is just a left and right hand working for the same body. Yes. But what's disturbing about this is that now they're bringing, this is UK Column, they've opened with Breitbart News. Far-right fascist, extremist newspaper that promoted Trump, that supports Boris Johnson fully supports Brexit, you know, everything. And they're quoting them as saying that, oh, you know, Boris Johnson has led a fascist coup against the United Kingdom. If you'd been told, how would you have felt a year ago if you'd been told the British government was planning to institute a 10 p.m. curfew, ban gatherings of more than 6 people, impose daily immunity tests before you were allowed to go about your business, employ Stasi-like volunteer marshals to ensure public compliance, and warning that it might even have to cancel Christmas. Yeah, wow, Breitbart, yeah, finger on the button. No, sorry, we're going through all this precisely because of the kind of powers that news promoters like Breitbart have vomited into power. And now here they are to profit from lapping, you know, basically lapping up the filth that's spewed out from the same filth that they helped get into power. Because we know for a fact, look, if Boris Johnson didn't support lockdowns, there would be no lockdowns. If Trump didn't support it, there wouldn't be it. But you see, they're just playing games with us. It's a psyop. It's an illusion. The media and the government are working hand in hand. The media are playing a role. They have been given a part to act, and they are being paid to say what they're saying. And the ones on the alternative media, a lot of them are also controlled, whether willingly or unwillingly. Is UK Column News under pressure? I am asking now. Because look, let me tell you for a start, and you know, I've sent UK Column all of this stuff, and it wasn't just me saying it, but you know, here am I in this article was published in July, I think it was July last year, okay, and then after Johnson had unlawfully prorogued Parliament, I updated it with inclusion of this introduction, which is a letter to my MP, but the actual article starts here, and it was in May when I'd finished writing it, because I was asked to write it by EU campaigners who were concerned about the way Brexit was going, and even people who had voted Brexit but now were concerned about it, okay? So I was asked, like, well, can you just write something? What do you think about it? So I did, and it got sent to the EU, and basically it covers the whole Irish border question, how it was, that, you know, is it really, how much can we take it as a coincidence that just when the Tories are engineering this kind of Brexit that's going to scrap the Good Friday Agreement, that somehow Theresa May, after a snap election, manages to get a coalition government with the DUP? Is that a coincidence? Just at the time the government's in a position through Brexit to impose a hard border across Ireland, as the DUP wanted, to re-establish the divide, resurgence of all the troubles, have an excuse to keep the population, the peasants, under martial law. Get Brexit done. Yes. All of that is in here. That was last year. right? But last August, I'd written to my MP and talked about the coup. The coup that is mentioned, that was sent, all mentioned here in May 2019. And it is written in here that that Brexit is being exploited and is effectively a coup against Britain, giving people the opposite of what they said they were going to get through Brexit, the very opposite and worse. Okay? That's why I've never supported Brexit, because I understood where all this was going right from the start, from when David Cameron first stated his intention to scrap human rights and nobody batted an eyelid. And the BBC was saying, we're praising the government for promising and pledging to scrap human rights, and how there were no uprising among the people, because the people were all too busy pointing the fingers at the poor and disabled, calling them scroungers. And as I say, this was August 2019. I am deeply concerned, especially about the hard Brexit the coup is undoubtedly designed to deliver, i.e. food and medicine shortages, rationing, troops, assisting police, martial law, scrapping of all our rights, resurgence of troubles in Ireland via a hard border. I fear the very concept of democracy is at risk here, and the plans for martial law are outrageous and threaten no less than civil war. What kind of democratic government needs to employ martial law during peacetime and for purpose of enforcing a policy that allegedly the people have democratically voted for? Breitbart News. Everything that was just stated in Breitbart News, that's what I was stating, I knew was going to be happening the moment Brexit arrives. A lot of us were wondering how they were going to do it. Because, you know, they're not just going to be able to unleash troops on the streets. All right, come on, get out there. We've took people's food off them. It's too obvious. It's too blatant. They risk losing support of the armed forces and the police. Because the police are going to be like, what? You're asking us to, like, you know, stamp down on these people? You've robbed them of food. No. They have to have something else to control the people that they've set to control us directly through the police and the military and the armies of professional people that they're going to be employing in their army. Because we're talking about a new world order corporate coup takeover of our planet. That's why the preamble was so important, you see, that you understand where I'm coming from with this. And how important it is and how huge it is. So, you know, basically, Breitbart News have supported, right from the start, we know they support Trump, Johnson, the guy who started the newspapers, a wife batterer, which is an offence to me. You know, I don't need my news from a wife batterer. I grew up with watching my mum get battered, okay? So, it doesn't bring up very pleasant images for me to see Breitbart on my newsfeed, which UK column is part of my newsfeed. I'm bombarded with Breitbart and what Breitbart are saying, which basically here is Breitbart lapping up the filth that they have placed into power, that's, you know, spewed out from the filth that they've helped into power, and here they are to tell the truth. You see, like I say, liars can tell the truth. The PSYOP. As it is stated here, this was addressing the trials and tribulations of COVID, which I wrote earlier on this year, published, addressing Boris Johnson's illegal coronavirus bill. And I discussed the media's role here. And about, you know, burying embarrassing and damning social and economic problems via a heavy politically controlled media only serves to permit those to quietly fester, to the point where the only solution is to enforce a police state in order to suppress unsavoury information and resulting actions that will undoubtedly demand major reform. Certainly, we have witnessed a media psyop mechanism at work, whereby the unpopular PM states his plan to do nothing. The media then incites mass public alarm toward calling for the kind of measures then only imposed by China and Italy. You see, the people you wouldn't have bought it if it was coming directly from Boris Johnson. The people wouldn't have bought it if it was coming directly from Trump. So, of course, they have to play opposition to the narrative that they are covertly establishing, and the powers that have put them in place have established, because the powers that put Trump and Boris in are the same powers that are controlling our media. Understand it, people. Understand the farmer and his sheepdogs. It is difficult to avoid what amounts to lawful suspicion that this pandemic is part of a globalist agenda designed to covertly satisfy their depopulation agendas, prohibit questions, information and mass public protests over 5G rollout, and yet another banking collapse now blamed on COVID. It was all well understood among all economic pundits that this present financial collapse was long overdue. It appears that when it comes to the New World Order ambitions, COVID-19 is the virus with all the gifts. And so it is, and so it appears even to Breitbart News. And so what is wrong with this? Really? Because, you know, you could say, well, all right, yeah, you might not like Breitbart. They might be right-wing. But that doesn't mean that, you know, we have to dismiss everything they say. No, what they're saying is true. But what I'm saying is that there's a lot of other people out there saying exactly the same thing, and they've been saying it for a lot longer than Breitbart. People like Last American Vagabond. People like Whitney Webb. People like Architects and Engineers for 9/11 Truth. There are lots of sources that UK Column could have quoted exactly this from. You know, like, for example, just an insignificant member of the British public like myself, who knew full well what this government had in store for the people through Brexit. And it appears that the mechanism, the beneficial coup, the beneficial crisis is COVID-19. I was wondering how they were going to do it. Okay, but in 2014, and this is a recent article I've done addressing this one's asking questions of Boris Johnson, questions about Brexit, questions about COVID-19, and it's all in sections. The first part is Brexit. The second part is COVID-19. So in part G, COVID opportunities and agendas. In reference to evidence cited under G1 to G69, prior to the COVID crisis, Dominic Cummings is on record as stating, a beneficial crisis is what your government needed. Well, I'm writing this to Boris Johnson. So a beneficial crisis is what the government needed to get Brexit done, right? And thereby transform Britain into Singapore on the Thames via axing huge swathes of UK civil services, scrapping human rights, jobs, businesses, devalue the pound and rolling out 5G, etc. Is COVID-19 the beneficial crisis Dominic Cummings so desired? And what kind of government needs a crisis to assist with their policies? And if any such crisis arrives, to serve those actually criminal agendas, by what right does a government slap the label conspiracy theorist or non-violent terrorist, you know? And so it goes on. I mean, you'd have to read the article. So this beneficial crisis. So if we go to part H, you know, it says there G1. And here it is. I've already got it up here. Part G, G1, COVID opportunities and agendas. New number 10 advisor Dominic Cummings' views on Whitehall. speaking 2 years before the 2016 referendum on EU membership, Cummings, added, "The EU was created on the basis of what they call beneficial crisis, and because of the nature of the world and the way things are going, we're going to see lots of beneficial crises shortly that would enable us to change things along the lines I've suggested if we want to." Well, you know, go and have a look at your Operation Yellowhammer, go and look at the rations, go and look at martial law, go and look at the stockpile of body bags. Do you think that they got that together in 2016? I mean, I think this news article was published in 2018, but they were quoting Cummings there from 2014. Right, this was 6 years ago. Beneficial crisis, COVID-19, the virus with all the gifts. Oh yeah, we're all going to be on a nationwide DNA database. We're all going to be tracked and traced on our phones. We're going to be slapped with like prison bracelets or whatever because we've tested positive for a coronavirus, because the government has stated in its law, in its Act of Parliament, right, coronavirus means COVID-19. That's the directive all the health officials are following. You test positive for a coronavirus, you've got antibodies to a coronavirus, we assume you have COVID-19. That is the premise they are operating on. That's what needs to be made clear. That's what I'm making clear. That's what everybody needs to understand, the law. The law in Britain now states if you show any signs of a coronavirus, if you have any antibodies against a coronavirus, you now can be assumed lawfully to have COVID-19. So basically, they've criminalised the common cold, allegedly in the interest of protecting us from a new virus that is part of that same coronavirus strain. Strain of pathogens. It is really outrageous. And then you look at it, the beneficial crisis. Well, they created a beneficial crisis, you see. That's why Dominic Cummings knew there would be lots of beneficial crises, because they're expert in creating them. Go and have a look at the architects and engineers of 9/11. Go and have a look at the recent court case. I don't know if I've still got the link up to it. Here we go. Campaign for a fresh inquest into the death of Jeffrey Thomas Campbell on September the 11th, 2001. This is a British man who lost his life in the World Trade Centers on 9/11. His family, on strength of the evidence now exposed by architects and engineers and the university in-depth study into the collapse of World Trade Center 7 and the Twin Towers. Now the family want a fresh inquest because, you know, he didn't, because the original inquest said he died through terrorist attacks of planes crashing into the building. The family are saying now, quite rightly, on strength of the scientific evidence, that, well, no, actually he didn't die through a terrorist attack from Al-Qaeda and planes crashing into a building. It looks like he died from a controlled demolition of a pre-planned event. That we don't know who did it, because there's been no investigation. This is news. Now, you know, as I say, I understand the constraints of UK column and big alternative news providers are operating under. But then, you know, I do question to what extent are they complicit? Are they complicit or unwitting? So, you know, this is a wake-up call to UK column, but also to beware the British public. Because, you see, from here, after basically starting here with Breitbart, they then go on to share some really important information from a guy like this, Jeffrey Tucker. And he's talking about the dangers, about lockdown, I found very few comments, and the reason, no one has ever in history been so stupid as to lock down the whole economy. And he's right. For the level of risk, as I say, as UK columnists rightly show people, more people have died through the lockdown than they died of COVID. We know the figures were vastly inflated. But they've already denigrated everything that this man says and all the information that they're going to show thereafter, because they started with Breitbart News. That really just makes people like myself want to vomit. Anything from them. I don't want to hear, you know, oh, they're telling us some truth. Sorry, go away. These people mix truth with facts and facts with fiction. They serve up some drivel. Anything that supports their agendas of divide, keep the divides, and everybody who is asking questions, oh, we're all Breitbart supporters. But it's all part of the same agenda, from that same consciousness from hundreds of years ago that has been operating. And we, you know, a man like Jesus came to teach, to show us the light. As he said, the afflicted, that's what he calls the wicked ones. Of course, they're afflicted with some brain consciousness disorder. It is up to us to be vigilant and aware, to enforce the law so that these people don't succeed. Of course, psychopaths are going to succeed in a world that has denigrated compassion and that is run, that venerates people who have a high IQ like Bill Gates, that worships them. Oh, he's got such a high IQ. He's so intelligent. When actually, that's only half the story, that intelligence. It's only half of intelligence. Where's the other half? Leading us astray. Of course, in his arrogance and his self-pomposity, his self-decreed superiority over the rest of the lowly people who are actually, what does he call them? Useless eaters. As if he's to judge anybody a useless eater. Yeah, he'll go off on his thing and you'll find, oh, where are you? Oh, in the middle of nowhere, bang, everything's finished. You see, because they do dupe people. They dupe a following. They'll buy a following. It's humanity. What are you? If you're working for somebody that is actually working against you, is operating against you as a being, fundamentally. Is there even a word to describe? Well, the only word you can describe is GIMP, okay? Because this is what I mean about the level of psyop and confusion that is going on. That, you know, as most people, anybody who is genuinely afraid and scared, trying to follow the COVID rules, who are starting to get informed, and they turn to UK column, you know, everybody's saying, oh, go and watch UK column, and just at the numbers are rising at their peak, bang, in comes UK column, yeah, you're all under the welcome to the Breitbart umbrella, the Trump far-right extremist QAnon umbrella. No, we're not going to be herded. And I hope that you sort this out. And, you know, make an apology, UK column. Because, you know, one thing about humanity is that, look, yeah, we'll take things, but there comes a point where, yeah, sorry, you stepped a bit out of line there. We need an explanation about this. Because that's what the law is. That's what sanity is, you see. Sanity is vigilance. And there's none of this cronyism that goes along with the psychopathic ruling elite where, oh, well, you know, it doesn't matter, you know, you're our friend. All right, you chopped up one of your citizens. You chopped them into bits, but you're buying weapons from us to kill people in other nations like Yemen where children are starving. You know, yeah. or you're Israel, so all right then, yeah, you can go in on a military attack against Gaza because a balloon with some fire attached to it has floated across an Israeli field. Yeah, but you're still our friend. No, you see, that's not the way that it works. And, you know, organisations, news providers now, you're going to have to step up to it. You're going to have to be on strict alert, because I'm going to give UK Column the benefit of the doubt and say, all right, they've published this just without thinking, really. You know, just like, yeah, they're telling the truth. All right, it's Breitbart, but it doesn't matter, they're telling the truth. But the thing is that, look, anybody can tell the truth. There's lots of false prophets out there. But when people like Breitbart are coming at us with this stuff, that is directly from the same consciousness that is benefiting from Trump now. I'm sorry, no. We can't accept it. And it does devalue everything that is then said here. You know, all that comes after it. All the accurate information to a lot of people have just been switched off. And it's like, in a sense, UK Column has set this invisible doorway up. And anybody who had just been given a UK Column link and starting to get informed, they stepped through that door, and what did they see? Breitbart. It is an assault against people's consciousness when people just need a bit of balance. We need balance. We need sanity. Because, you know, among the people who are asking questions about COVID, we are a mix. You see, among good people, genuinely good, law-abiding, lawful people, you will find a mix of people. You'll find some people who are right-leaning, some people who are left-leaning, some people who aren't really political that much, people who are interested in ecology. And the idea of a democracy is that from that mix we find leaders who are moderate, you see, within their ideological stance, and they're prepared, and they operate with compassion, you see, because, you know, we don't just go by this defunct IQ test that has eliminated compassion, empathy, whether you care about the law or rights or things like that. No, that's, sorry, go away. We want wholesome intelligence, people who are competent, intellectually competent, and on a level of compassion. Because compassion is part of intelligence. Because, you see, it takes intelligence to be able to think beyond one's own selfish desires and ambitions. It takes intelligence to be able to have the humility to listen to what somebody else is saying and understand that, oh, actually what you were proposing, yes, there are flaws in it. Oh, thank you for explaining that to me. I hadn't realised that. We'll take that into account. You see, because that's what intelligence does. It takes everything into account. And that's what we need to do as a species. We need to take everything into account. Yes, including Breitbart News, but understand, what is Breitbart News? Do we need to listen to Breitbart News? As I've just showed you, a year ago I was saying exactly what Breitbart News is saying now. It's just that they've used COVID to do it. Okay? Curfews, martial law. Oh, they've got their marshals ready, COVID marshals, out of the EU. In comes the lockdown. Here's your COVID marshals. Get back in your house. Oh, by the way, you're under martial law. Will there ever be a democracy in Britain again? Probably not. Probably we will end up being a tax haven, all lining up under point of a gun to receive our vaccinations from our government, who loves us so much. And we have every reason to lawfully suspect, with evidence enough to warrant arrest and investigations, that these vaccines are part of an agenda of depopulation that has been openly spoke about by the very people who are insisting that we have that we have these mass vaccinations, people like Bill Gates, who himself is going to profit directly from these mass vaccinations, who himself has already maimed and injured hundreds of thousands of children around the world, but apparently, you know, like I say, he can do that. He's paid his sum of gold to the Pope. Who's the Pope today? Netanyahu? So it would seem. This is the reality we have to face, people. It's the reality that a lot of alternative news medias dare not say. You know, probably my life could be at risk because I've said it. But, you know, all my cards are on the table. And I do have a full house. Okay? And that is the fact of it. So, you know, the people around can say, oh, no, you cheated, you did this, you did that. No, I didn't, you see. Because I didn't. I didn't cheat. I didn't break any laws. I'm not threatening any lives. I'm not calling for riots and insurrection. I'm asking people to do as we have a right to do, to stand up for our rights and see through the crap. Refuse to be divided. Refuse to accept the division. Refuse to accept the narratives that want to divide us asking questions. To say, oh yeah, well, look. And, you know, I hope that UK Column will just realise that, look, this, to be quoting Breitbart, when there's people, there's so many people out there. I mean, James Corbett of the Corbett Report, you could have, how many articles has he written? You could have quoted him, you could have quoted Whitney Webb. There's so many people. Why not Piers Corbyn? Why not him? Oh, is it because, you know, he isn't up there, he's not been part of the White House, he isn't a wife batterer that started his own far-right fascist newspaper? Is he just too ordinary? We don't need Breitbart to tell us what's going on. That's the fact of it. And just by showing it, it's denigrated the whole everything else that is being said. It's put it all in the context of Breitbart. That's, you know, that's part of PSYOP. So I am questioning UK Column like that. But like I say, I am going to still support UK Column, and I still advise people to watch it, but be discerning and be aware, you know, that, and pull them up on it. That, look, sorry, you know, I do not want to be labelled, I don't want Breitbart. I don't want to be reminded of wife battering when I turn on UK Column News. That's why it's important that people who are in the public sphere are not wife batterers, are not sex offenders, because the people that have been impacted by those kind of things then get impacted when they're having them shoved in the face. Because obviously Breitbart, I'm going to see Steve Bannon, I'm going to see wife batterer. I'm going to see this narrative, the divide that is being imposed against us. To say everybody who's asking questions is a far-right fascist, and then putting people off stepping outside it, because then they're lonely. They're lonely, they're left trapped on the Starmer Guardian thing of, oh, all right, yeah, I'm going to wear the mask because, you know, those people asking questions, they're all Trump supporters and far-right fascists. No, stand up for your rights, people. So in that sense, you know, I'd have to thank UK Column because they've given me an opportunity here to absolutely address this, and I hope that they do. And I hope that they have the humility to understand that, you know, I'm not criticising, I'm expressing my concern and exposing the impact that this has on people. And, you know, it's the same kind of impact here that, look, this is from the Daily Mail, and I think it was 2014, August, and it was after the UN Child Protection Committee had published their report on Britain as far as child abuse and protecting children from child abuse goes. And, dealing with stuff like child trafficking, and you know, basically how London became the child abuse capital of the world is the basic gist. I mean, the Daily Mail typically are here trying, you know, the British news media trying to claim that, oh, children are being trafficked into Britain to take advantage of Britain's amazing child benefits welfare payment system. You know, that's one of the reasons why we need to scrap it, because, you know, it's encouraging child trafficking. Yeah, this is the kind of narratives that have been shoved down British people's throats, that people have been absorbing while going about their daily business. Okay, that basically the British benefit system was encouraging child trafficking, when we know damn well it had nothing to do with benefits. We know damn well that the evidence is there to support the lawful suspicion that social workers and all kinds of authorities in London have been subverted, infiltrated by child abusers, organised child abusers, that they can legitimise child traffickers to bring in children into Britain, where they're groomed and they end up in places like Bangkok as a slave prostitute. That's what's been going on. And yes, they do legitimise them, so they're made out that, oh yes, this is an adoptive parent, or this is an actual parent, or this is a foster carer, and they get paid massive sums while they're grooming the children and ferrying, because it all costs money, you see. They've got to buy the children clothes, feed them, take them here and there, pay for any damages that can't be seen to by regular doctors. You know, there's all kinds of stuff going on. So yes, they do actually legitimise these people, because how easy is it to go and claim child benefit, even for a British citizen? You need birth certificates, you need this, you need that. It isn't that easy. But the point here is, where was that? You know, this is from the UN Child Protection, the United Nations Child Protection Committee report for Britain. It states some very, very serious crimes in there, including, what was it, thousands of children being trafficked into Britain every year, and hundreds of them suffering abuse and torture in, what was it, brutal religious ceremonies, right? That was the UN report for 2014. And talking about extremely low arrest rates, and how abusers are able to operate with impunity, and about how they use charities as a cover for their child abuse. You know, running an orphanage in Africa turns out to be a storeroom, basically, for trafficking children for abuse and slavery. But where was it published? In the Mail, the gutter press. The press that most people, discerning people, no, not reading the Mail, so nobody knew about it. Because it's in the gutter press, you see. So it doesn't matter that it's come from the UN, that it's come from a highly professional, highly organised, in-depth study into what's going on in Britain with our children. No, that isn't good enough for the Times. It's not good enough for the Guardian or the Independent. It's only good enough for the Daily Mail, because, you know, it's about child abuse, and that's all filth, isn't it? So we'll stick that in the gutter with the gutter press. And that's where, again, the facts, you know, because what Breitbart states is absolutely true. But COVID is the beneficial crisis there to serve the other purpose of Brexit, of which all the people behind this COVID thing, the vast majority of those corporate interests, have direct corporate interests in Britain becoming a tax haven. And all the rich far-right extremists of Europe are already got their plans for their offices in Britain, tax haven Britain. And tax havens, people, do not do democracy. And UK column isn't talking about how Britain is going to become a tax haven. via a shock and awe strategy. Well, it looks like COVID-19 is the shock and awe strategy that Sajid Javid was talking about. When was that? In 2016? Oh, 2017. Singapore on the Thames. So, you know, that is what I'm trying to show you. That, look, just because the news is trashed and being given by trashy organisations like Breitbart, you know, forget Breitbart. You don't need to read Breitbart. Unfortunately, when it comes to Britain's mainstream media, you did have to read this in order to know what the Child Protection Committee had said, and it isn't even clear here, because this is about another story that they pinned onto it about one of the researchers who'd met a child in Bangkok who'd come from Africa, and she'd been trafficked to London where she was groomed. And then the article goes on to talk about how Britain's attractive child benefit system is encouraging trafficking. Seems to be the most gist of the article. Because as always, they water it down. And there's a vague mention of the UN report that has actually instigated this. See, a new United Nations report paints a dark picture of the British capital. How long did they have this story on the shelf before they decided to stick it onto the UN, to the United Nations report? In order to distract, to de-alert the British public. So, it's like I say, but the minute something's in the Mail online, you share that, people just turn off. And the same with this, people just turn off. But unfortunately, they are using this to turn people off very important news. The fact that it's coming from Breitbart turns people off. But why? And that's the question I'm saying, is that, but no, it isn't just coming from Breitbart, is it? It's not coming from Breitbart. Breitbart is just spouting what many people who have nothing to do with Breitbart or anything like their far-right extremism, people who stand with law and rights and balance, we've noticed the same thing. We know the same thing. And we noticed it a year ago. Yes, indeed, Breitbart, a year ago. We noticed the fascist coup in the United Kingdom. We've noticed how COVID-19 is the beneficial crisis to be exploited. We've already noticed it. We've noticed the New World Order corporate global coup, which Donald Trump is a prime engineer of in terms of his, well, let's face it, the guy hasn't engineered any of it. He's a puppet. He's told what to say, he's told what to do, and in the meantime he's allowed to be himself. And yeah, you can say, no, I don't support masks, but then you'll wear a mask and you'll just sit by while your whole country gets locked down, you know. Yeah. Because that's... And he will be enforcing vaccinations at the point of a gun, just like Boris Johnson. Both of them said, let it run through the herd. But you mark my words, it seems to me that's what they've got planned. And like I say, why shouldn't we suspect that it's not part of depopulation agendas, that vaccine won't lead to people developing serious illnesses to the point that they die in 2-3 years down the line, that it's not going to all be organised, that, you know, cancer will be so endemic that they'll be telling people over the age of 30, oh sorry, it's do not resuscitate, or oh sorry, you're over 40, you aren't entitled to any cancer treatment. We have to focus on the young. How long? And what can sick people do? How can sick people stand up for the rights and the next generation? We brought a generation of children into this world, and we need to take responsibility to make sure that there's a future worth living for them. Because I tell you, under rule of these psychopaths, you're talking absolute madness to the point of extinction. Unfortunately, because they only have half intelligence, because they are stupid fundamentally. Unfortunately. And the stupid people are always going to be with us, and we're always going to have to look out for them. We're always going to have to be vigilant, and the only way we can do that is by upholding the law and standing by it, and standing up for our rights, and standing up especially for children's rights and women's rights and workers' rights, animal rights, ecological rights. We respect, we live with respect. Because when you have respect for rights and the law, that is when we enjoy true freedom. The kind of freedom that the criminals of this world are presently enjoying. They're the ones that should be arrested, restrained. They're the ones that should feel restrained in life. Because they crave freedom to harm a child. Because they crave freedom to harm our planet and our societies. They need to be feeling restraint. But instead, they're putting restraints on us, the good people. They're slapping the label Breitbart on anybody questioning the mask and the lockdowns and the veracity of the alleged pandemic title. And that's, like I say, all we can do is unite. I stand with Trump supporters, Brexit supporters, anybody who is standing up for what is right. I'm not, we're not here to judge one another. It's about who is on the side of truth, facts, law, rights, justice, balance, sanity. And who's against all of that? Who's profiting from it? Who's manipulating it? Who's bigging themselves up on it? Who's earning a living out of it? People like Bill Gates. And, people like Jeff Bezos, for example. What is it, 200 billion or something he's got now? What can we do as a people except appeal to Jeff Bezos and say, look, you've made all your masses of money on the strength of the criminals that have been controlling our world for how long now? Maybe you need to look at who you are actually serving and which side of the fence you're on in terms of this universe. Because I tell you now, you're never going to take it with you, Jeff Bezos. Once your physical body has perished, you're back to that quantum dot energy standing in front of your creator. What consciousness are you serving? All of you people of wealth and power now that are being duped into these narratives about mass depopulation to save the planet. It's absolutely ridiculous. The only way we're going to save our planet is by caring for our species and employing every single hand that we've got available to address the issues and the problems. Not vaccinating everybody with a deadly vaccine, but no, liberate all the cures that they've got locked on the shelves because, they stand in the way of the big pharma profits. It's time to start healing. And we heal ourselves, we will heal our planet. But more mass death and destruction, we've witnessed what's been going on. Nothing good has come out of it. Nothing good will come from it. There is nothing good on offer. This new technology does need to be overseen. We need to discuss it. we need to understand what it is we are doing as a species. We are not designed to be ruled by a dictator. We were designed to be ruled by universal law. And that is the law, the common law that is written into the hearts of every balanced, sane individual. And, you know, as I say, in a lawful world, you know, people of a psychopathic consciousness would not be as much as a threat as they are in a world ruled by people like themselves. Because, you know, there's greater rewards there for the psychopath by, oh, well, it's easy for me. I can just ignore my compassion. I don't care if I've left that little old lady with no money and a black eye. I've got the money I want now for what I need. But the bulk of people wouldn't be able to do that. They wouldn't do it. Their conscience wouldn't allow them to do it. So basically, the people without care and conscience are the ones that can just step on over the world. They can do what they like because the cornerstone of the law is compassion. But oh no, the builders of this world, they didn't want compassion. Chuck that one out. Replace it with ignorance. Through competition. Who can win the race? Oh, there's a great big stumbling block there, people. If you've got a care and a conscience, you ain't going to be a Jeff Bezos of the world. That's basically what's been going on. But when ignorance, which is the true sort of stumbling block, when that's replaced, oh yeah, every criminal mind is going to fall. Because as soon as people notice, oh, you've ignored somebody's rights there, you've ignored the law, they're going to fall. That's why they don't like the law. So, you know, what can I say? I've been rambling on now for an hour and 11 minutes. So it's up to you, people. I hope that you can glean information from this and directives and, you know, make it more concise and share it with other people. But I think we do need to accept the enormity of where we're at today, the seriousness of it, the severity, that we're reaching that point of no return from absolute madness. It's that point where you take that foot over the edge of the cliff and the law of gravity is going to hit. And the people guiding us there are all stood way, way back from the edge of the cliff. They're just shout, yeah, go on, keep going. Oh, don't follow that line. That line's going over the edge of the cliff. Follow this line, but all lines are leading to the edge of the cliff. Understand that. And again, UK column, hats off to you for the information that you shared. But, you know, this Breitbart stuff, I think you do need to issue an apology.